Hello and welcome. Over the next few minutes, I want to demonstrate how quickly and easily version 9 of the new NETASQ Unified Threat Management Firewall can be set up to secure your entire network infrastructure. To do this, I will introduce a typical deployment scenario for a medium-sized organization that we will call My Company. After an increasing escalation of security incidents, including high volumes of spam and sporadic virus infections, My Company was hit by a serious targeted attack on its website, disrupting business and threatening the good name and reputation of My Company. For Francois, the CEO, it was the last straw. Fabien, the IT manager, was instructed to find another solution to secure the company network or to find another job. Fabien, being a smart guy, had realized for some time that the existing firewall was insufficient against the increasingly sophisticated web-based attacks now plaguing the company. But he was concerned that the cost and expertise required to add all the necessary additional layers of security would be beyond the reach of My Company. Although he now had green light for replacement of the firewall, his budget is still limited, and he knows it's unlikely that any additional funds would be available for the next few years. His career literally depends on the choice he now makes. On advice from his reseller and network architect, Fabien decides to try the NETASQ solution, which they say, unlike other UTMs or so-called next-generation firewalls, offers EU and NATO certified protection without compromising performance or control. The first task is to quickly set up the firewall to provide safe internet access to all users, as well as direct access to the My Company web server and email system. So let's get started. The first task is to quickly set up the firewall to provide safe internet access to all users, as well as direct access to the My Company web server and email system. Once authenticated, he goes directly to the Security Policy menu and then NAT Filter. To provide internet access to the employees, Fabien is going to define his first standard rule. He chooses the action pass, and he will apply this rule to the corporate network. The simple yet powerful graphical interface provides a number of predefined objects, seen here in the left-hand frame, which can be simply dragged and dropped into the new rule. He uses the object Internet, which is automatically defined, and chooses the destination port HTTP, while the intrusion prevention system, or IPS, automatically determines that the only protocol authorized is HTTP. He then associates an antivirus and URL filtering policy. Already, the first rule is configured, allowing all users on the My Company network to access the Internet under the protection of IPS, antivirus, and URL filtering. To make it easier for him and other members of his team to understand and follow these network security policies at a later date, Fabien adds a line separator, which allows for the writing and grouping of multiple rules. Once the text is written, Fabien adds a color so that the rule can be quickly identified within the longer list that will undoubtedly evolve as more granularity of control is later applied. Now, Fabien needs to grant access to the My Company web server. To accomplish this, he's delighted to find that he can simply drag and drop objects from one rule to another. He now grants access from the Internet to his public firewall. Simply typing the first letter of the name of the object is enough to find the one he wants. Once access to the address of the firewall is authorized, he can define the redirection to the web server of My Company. The same strategy is then applied for HTTP port, which will be directed to the HTTP port of the web server. Now, he just needs to activate antivirus protection for the web server, and My Company is effectively configured and secured. Next comes the protection of the company email server. In just a few clicks, he authorizes access from the Internet to the public interface of the firewall and redirects via the company email server. This is enforced on the SMTP port, not only for the public interface, but also for the My Company email service. Within the same rule, he then adds a filtering policy to protect the email service against viruses and spam. As before, he separates the rule and adds a group title to make it easier to find later. As you have seen, it took just a few simple and intuitive steps to secure Internet and public server access for my company. By allowing the use of everyday language in the definition and naming of rules and groups of rules, the chances of configuration errors and the security holes which might hide within these errors are greatly reduced. The second step for Fabian is to create a secure virtual private network, or VPN, linking my company to that of the head office. For this, he will configure an IPsec tunnel between the two networks. So he selects the menu Configuration, VPN, and then IPsec VPN. Here, one of the intelligent configuration wizards will guide him through the otherwise complex process of establishing secure tunnels. He enters the head office network to be accessible via the IPsec tunnel and defines the distant network, in this case factory, to be shared with the head office. He validates, and the tunnel is now configured. The installation has gone extremely well, but the next day Fabian gets a shock. His new NETASQ has sent him an email alerting him to the presence of nearly 100 vulnerabilities detected in real time, all requiring attention. Thankfully, the NETASQ has also provided recommendations of how to remove these vulnerabilities, and so he acts quickly and secures the network against all the possible attacks which might otherwise have exploited these potential loopholes. Noticing that the last vulnerability dated back almost 18 months, he realizes that his investment in NETASQ will very shortly yield big returns. After a few weeks of use, Fabian is very satisfied. He has finally been able to securely roll out the long-awaited IP telephony project that Francois had been pressuring him to complete, all secured by NETASQ. He's also made a big hit with the sales team by using the directly integrated SSL VPN capabilities of the firewall to provide them with secure mobile access ahead of schedule. Policy modification is simple and secure. Thanks to the search function, Fabian can easily isolate the rule which applies to the factory or head office network, for example, or obtain a clear status of the antivirus protection, showing all the rules for which antivirus is activated. The security policy for my company and the real-time scheduling functionality, which can be used to limit access to office hours and block during holiday periods, has afforded him significant peace of mind and allowed him to focus on non-security projects with a more direct contribution to the company's bottom line. Another function Fabian just loves is the real-time diagnostic, which immediately alerts him when a logical error is made during the writing of a new policy. This is the case here. The two rules with the URL filter are in conflict and should be distinguished by the scheduling hours required. All he has to do is click the scheduling hour and the error disappears. 6 months later, without a single security incident and negligible spam in his email inbox, Francois, the CEO, is very impressed. Every Monday, he receives a concise custom report detailing all the preemptive actions and countermeasures undertaken by the NETASQ, and reassuring him not only of the health of his critical business resources, but also of the shrewd investment Fabian has made in his company's infrastructure. My company is now more secure than ever before. Productivity has soared and revenue is growing. As a result, Fabian is duly and deservedly promoted to the newly created position of CIO. Thank you for watching this short scenario and demonstration. Although fictitious, it's actually quite typical of the way NETASQ has already been deployed over 75,000 times in locations around the world. For further information and full contact details, please go to netask.com.